Can I just be clear? The Prime Minister had decided that he wished to make a political appointment. Was it you who first said, Prime Minister, I've got the perfect candidate, Peter Mandelson?
I think the first person who put Mandelson's name forward was Mandelson.
Directly to the Prime Minister, I want the job? Or
I think he talked, I don't know if he spoke to him. I think he talked to a lot of people, making it clear that he was interested in the job, including, I'm sure, possibly even members of the press. But that's where that came from. I don't remember the Prime Minister asking me a view prior to the US election. I think, but I can't remember, but I think he was keeping his cards close to his chest, waiting to see the outcome of that election. And I think there would have been, for a Labour administration, a broader range of candidates available to him had the Democrats won that election.
You've set out why you think he was well qualified to do the job, but you've also known him for a very long time, and you will also be fully aware of the fact that he had twice had to resign from the cabinet, that he had business interests with China, that he had a close friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, and also that he was friends with Oleg Deripaska, who was a confidant of Vladimir Putin. Despite all those things, you still thought he was the right person for the job?
Well, to take each one of those in turn, after his last resignation, he had rebuilt a reasonable reputation for himself. He had gone as an EU commissioner, and as far as I was aware at the time of his appointment, and I don't know what will subsequently come of their own investigations, but he had a good reputation. He was seen to have done a good job as EU commissioner. Then he came back into British politics and served as a very senior member of Gordon Brown's premiership, Gordon Brown's government, and again at the time was well regarded as a senior minister in that department. So he had done these two big political jobs long after his last resignation. It's why I think that a lot of the media and a lot of other politicians at the time thought that this was the right appointment for the country. The nature of the relationship that I understood he had with Epstein was not a close friendship. How I understood it at the time was a passing acquaintance that he regretted having and that he apologised for. What has emerged since then was way, way, way worse than I had expected at the time. And it was when I saw the pictures, when I saw the Bloomberg questions in September 2025, I have to say it was like a knife through my soul. I did not expect that level of connection that he was talking about there. As for the other issues that you're raising, I thought business interests would be dealt with in the Foreign Office, so people look at things like conflict of interests. When we appointed SPADs who have business interests, Cabinet Office and PET would deal with that, so that wouldn't be something I would deal with as a Chief of Staff. And if there was any national security issues whatsoever, then my assumption on that was that would be dealt with by DV, and if there was any national security issues whatsoever, we would then be told if there was a problem, and then the Prime Minister could pull the appointment. So from what I knew at the time, I thought he had re-established himself as a credible political, senior political figure in Europe and in the Brown government. I did not was aware of the extent of the relationship that he had, and I thought that these other issues would be dealt with at other parts of the process.
Your discovery of the closeness of his relationship, you say, was a knife to the heart. But the box note says that you discussed with Peter Mandelson his relationship with Epstein, and that you then discovered as a result of that conversation, for instance, the fact that he stayed in the flat belonging to Jeffrey Epstein after Epstein had been convicted for paedophile offences.
That wasn't a discovery that I made.
Did you advise the Prime Minister of that?
No, that was in the DV form that was from
DV?
Beg pardon, you're right. A due diligence form from PET. I wrote to Mandelson after the DD to understand from him in writing what his position was on these issues. That email that I sent to Mandelson and his responses from that, the Met Police are using as part of their investigation. When I was in number 10, I was told that we couldn't share either the questions or the answers to those questions or the email itself with the media or as part of the humble address process until the police were finished with it, because they said it would interfere with their investigation. And so I've stuck to that since I've left Anna Street too.
But in your conversation with the Prime Minister about Peter Mandelson's relationship with Epstein, the subject of Mandelson staying in Epstein's flat after the conviction, that was part of the conversation.
It's hard to answer that directly without saying what was in the contents of the emails. But my understanding at the time, I could maybe say about what my understanding was from hearing him talk about it and listening to his friends. My understanding at the time was that his relationship was a passing acquaintance that he knew through somebody else, that he's the way of he's describing it was that he realised that it was a mistake, he deeply regretted it, he broke it off many years before. He wasn't advocating for the guy or defending the guy in any way, and you take all of these things into consideration. What then emerged as the relationship in September last year was not the relationship that I was led to understand. It was very different.
I just wanted to go back over some of the questions that the Chair had asked you and just ask some follow-ups and seek some clarification on some of those. You said that you were out in the States at the start of December prior to the appointment being made. When you were out there, in the conversations that you were having kind of offline, did anyone raise with you concerns that they had about Mandelson's business links with China?
No.
Okay. So thinking about the security vetting, we heard from Sir Philip Barton that he told us there was no contingency plan in place if security clearance wasn't granted to Peter Mandelson. Had you considered the possibility that clearance would be denied, and had you put any contingency plan in place?
I didn't have a contingency plan in place, but I was always aware that somebody could fail security vetting, was always aware that was a possibility for any appointment that we made, yes.
Aware, but did you consider it? Did you kind of actively think this could happen in this case?
No, and if it had happened, we'd have withdrawn the ambassadorship. It would have been a political embarrassment, and then we'd have gone on with probably it's hard to guess. We'd have asked Karen Pearce, I think, to stay on probably, and then we'd have thought about what would be the next steps.
You clearly felt that Peter Mandelson was the right person for the job. You'd recommended him to the Prime Minister, although you have said that you believe the Prime Minister would have sought a wide range of opinions. Despite the fact that you ultimately resigned over your advice to the Prime Minister, would you say that he was the person in full knowledge of all of the information who made the decision to appoint Mandelson to that role?
He had all the knowledge that I had, but I don't know what other knowledge, and this is part of what this committee is looking at, what he should have otherwise have been told or not told, but he had all the knowledge that I had, yes.
And that he was the one who ultimately will have made the decision, not being persuaded or kind of doing what somebody else wanted him to do?
Yes, the Prime Minister takes the decision, yes.
Okay. So Sir Oliver Robbins, who obviously is the former Permanent Under-Secretary at the Foreign Office, he has now lost his job. And the PM said when he was asked that he didn't accept the explanation as to why he overruled the verdict of security vetters, and that's why he sacked him. Do you think somebody should be sacked for an error of judgment?
Sorry, if I could add one last thing to your previous question, if that's okay, which is that the Prime Minister was aware of everything that I was aware of, but the Prime Minister wasn't aware of enough, not because of advisors or civil servants, because Mandelson himself wasn't open enough with him. And that really is the big problem in all of this. And Mandelson said, this is everything, and defended himself on the truth, I don't think that he'd have come close to being appointed. So the Prime Minister did not have enough information because Mandelson did not share the necessary information with him. He had ample opportunity to do so and did not, and that is where, above all else, that is where this was let down. If he had been honest, like any other person, and the thing that I always thought about Mandelson was I thought he cared about his party and he loved his country. So I banked that he would at least be honest with his Prime Minister in such a post, and I think that's where really it was let down. So I don't think that the Prime Minister had all the necessary information to make the decision.
Do you think that given the scale of the appointment that 3 questions were sufficient enough to interrogate Mandelson?
I think if somebody is being honest with you, then the questions would have been sufficient. If somebody's hiding, then whether you ask 3 or 5, if they're deliberately hiding something, or however many questions it might have been, then I'm not sure you got to the bottom of it. For purposes of appearances, and public appearances are important in this, I wish and I regret that I didn't ask Pet to carry out those questions. But I'm not sure that they'd have got better answers given how he was choosing to answer these questions. I'm not sure they'd have got better answers at all. However, my hope at the time, was that, my thinking at the time at least was that I'll ask him these questions and he should answer them honestly. If he doesn't answer them honestly, I don't have investigatory powers, and neither would Pet. But there was 2 other mechanisms that I thought might catch a problem. One was he had been such a public figure for so long and had media scrutiny, actually worked for the media, that if there was anything where he had said something to me that the media later uncovered, then there would be gaps. I also thought that DV would expose if there was any further risks, so I thought those were the other next steps where there was some safeguards in place. But if somebody isn't fully truthful about the questions they answer, then if there was a different person asking it, or if they'd asked more questions, I'm not sure. It's hard to tell. We don't know. But with hindsight, I wish that I had asked Pet to ask those questions.
Okay,
Did you put those questions in writing?
Yeah.
Is your evidence that you put those questions in writing because you thought Mandelson was more obligated to tell the truth if he had to write it down?
Yeah, and I had a record as well.
So does that mean that you advised the Prime Minister that you didn't think that Mandelson had told you the full truth about Epstein?
No, I didn't say that to him.
Or did you say, that the Prime Minister thought, well, if there's a serious problem, the DV will pick it up?
No, I didn't say there's a serious problem. The DV will pick it up. No.
No, but I mean, either you thought that Mandelson was lying to you about Epstein, and presumably you told the Prime Minister that, or you thought, or the Prime Minister thought, well, okay, he's lied, but let's make sure, but the DV will pick it up, so that'll cover us at that point.
No, I thought he had told the truth. I thought if he had written to me and set it out the way he did, that he'd have told the truth. That was a mistake.
Right, so he'd lied before and then he told the truth when he wrote it.
I thought he I didn't think he had lied. I thought he had told the truth, and I thought, and that was the basis of which I thought we were going ahead. But I also thought, if I was wrong, if he had been lying, I thought he told the truth, and that's why I thought we should proceed. But I thought if I was wrong, and he had been lying, that might be picked up at DV.
And whatever he wrote, he essentially assured you that that any allegations about him staying at Epstein's house once Epstein was in jail was all fine.
Again, I don't think I can share the contents of the emails and the questions and his answers, but when he wrote back to me, I assumed wrongly that he was telling me the truth.
I want to have another go at an answer that you gave, because I do feel as though you've contradicted it. And I've got a note now. So my thinking at the time was that I'd put follow-up questions to him in writing, and that if a senior member of staff did that he would feel more obligated to give the truth and the full truth. I didn't feel that I got that back from him. But it wasn't my decision. It was the Prime Minister's decision. and he saw the DV as part of that decision.
Sorry, let me correct myself. In September, I realised I didn't get the truth back from him. At the time, I thought I got the truth back from him. When I saw the emails and the pictures that came out and that were published from the Epstein files in September last year, that's when it really dawned on me that I did not get the full truth from him then. At the time, I thought he was telling the truth. If I didn't think he was telling the truth, I would have said, this guy is not telling me the truth, but I did think he was telling the truth, and that was wrong.
So, I didn't feel that I got that back from him, but it wasn't my decision, it was the Prime Minister's. You didn't mean any of that?
No, I didn't feel that I got the truth back from him in September last year. Sorry, I might have mumbled my words. I got the answers back from him. I thought that he was telling the truth. When I gave that to the Prime Minister, I did so on the basis that Mandelson had answered truthfully. That was in January, or December, beg your pardon. And in September last year, it became clear to me that he hadn't told the truth.
Decisions of this magnitude should not be done informally, kind of on the sofa. At previous committee sessions, members, we have become aware of a lack of some of the papers, and today it's been referred to the Prime Minister receiving a lot of views. We don't have any paperwork of that. The Foreign Secretary being involved a number of times. We don't have record of that. We don't have record of the George Osborne side of this, and there are other parts. Do you accept that this was not documented well, and why do you think that is?
So I think government is conducted with conversations as well as papers. Prime Ministers should be able to phone people up and say, what do you think about something? I think it's right that decisions are recorded. It's difficult for me to say what's the appropriate level of recording the decisions and the minutes, because it's not where my expertise is. I think there certainly needs to be enough that people can see enough of a paper trail, but I also think it's appropriate for the Prime Minister to say, look, I want to get someone's views, I want to have a conversation with them. But those conversations are not the same as where he makes the decisions, and I think there needs to be enough recording around those, but it's not my area of expertise.
That sounds great, except that the decisions themselves weren't recorded. That's the point. You know, so, and I come back to the point. I mean, I know you say it's all the civil servant's fault and not yours, but you were in charge of that office where they weren't recording decisions being made.
I think they were recording decisions being made on a pretty regular basis.
You just haven't told us about them.
I saw regular paperwork on a whole bunch of decisions. If I've in any way slighted the people I worked with in number 10, please forgive me, because these were the most wonderful people, very serious people.
I'm sure they were, but I just want to see I just want to see evidence of decisions being made in relation to Mandelson and how those decisions were made. And we just, we have the humble address, we have all this paperwork coming out, we haven't seen any evidence of how these decisions were made. We're having to take the memories of witnesses that, as we can see, are different.
There were lots that were known about Peter Mandelson before this appointment, and I appreciate that you have said that you made judgment call that you've since said is wrong. But there's a very well publicised friendship with one of the world's most notorious sex offenders. How was it that nobody within number 10 had seen this as an issue that so many of us had an aversion to? What was going on there that this was not the immediate red flag?
So I think the thinking was that the time that he was in contact with Epstein, he presented as being an acquaintanceship. He regretted maintaining contact after his first conviction, when he realised whatever he realised. I mean, according to his story at the time, he wasn't defending what this guy did in his first conviction, and he was saying that he was duped into understanding the nature of what had happened. So we
He got convicted, though. He couldn't get around that. I mean, he had been convicted, of sex trafficking a minor. I mean, it's pretty... how do you talk your way out of that? Once a friend has been convicted of that, surely they're no longer a friend, let alone staying in their flat.
And I would I don't have anyone in my life like that. But he didn't.
He did, and
he-
you promoted him as being the next ambassador to the United States.
He didn't say that he was a friend. He denied that he was a friend. He tried to say he was a passing acquaintance, that he was somebody who didn't really know enough about to ask questions.
And the due diligence said otherwise.
The due diligence didn't say he was a friend, and
Stayed in
Mandelson...
his house. The due diligence said he stayed in his house.